our plan is to start in this area and then maybe go to the other area 600 kilometers away.
Imagine having detailed prior information about a terrific natural disaster, and then you stumbled upon a calculated solution. This is the case of this biblical character who holds the key to saving the world in his day and time. Noah was equally known for building the biggest and largest boat that floated above more than 1,000 feet of water. Recently, a stunning discovery was made about Noah and his family's remains that is capable of rewriting the common history we've grown up with. What exactly was found? How true could it be? Join us as we closely examine what the scientists discovered from Noah's remains, a giant skeleton found at Noah's grave. Archaeologists made an interesting find which is about a mile or two from a place known to be Noah's ancient home. A big fingernail skeleton was found at a location believed to be Noah's resting place. The researcher was able to detect it because there was a maker outside the ruins. There was a giant stone with the inscription of a rainbow, and underneath it were chips of animals coming out of it. Plus, there are 8 craft crosses representing 8 people that survived and got off the ark. The long skeleton finger was taken from the remains of the grave. It seems like a giant hand, which gives a pictorial image of the body structure of humans at that time. Also, it was believed that the grave and the fingernail belonged to Noah's wife. One of the 4 wives on board Noah's ark is Noah's wife. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 18, God says to Noah, "But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you." Although she is nameless in the Bible, as written in Genesis chapter 4, verse 22, in Genesis, however, 103 variants of her name and personality are listed in apocryphal literature. Although she was identified by some apocryphal literature as Naamah, the daughter of Lamech, the Deuterocanonical book of Tobit says that Noah's wife was a member of his kindred in Tobit chapter 4, verse 12. Her name in the Dead Sea Scrolls is Imzara. Naamah is mentioned in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 4, verse 22, as a descendant of Cain. She was the only mentioned daughter of Lamech and Zillah and their youngest mentioned child. Her brother was Tubal-Cain, while Jabal and Jubal were her half-brothers, sons of Lamech's other wife Ada. She is often connected to Naamah of the Zohar, one of the first women to seduce the Grigori and give birth to Nephilim Naamah with her half-brother Jubal. Marble Bas, relief at Orvieto. Cathedral depicts Naamah as a teacher of reading, while her half-brother Jubal is a father of music. Gordon Wenham notes that the reason she should be picked out for special mention remains obscure, while R.R. Wilson suggests that the narrator simply wished to offer a balanced genealogy by noting that both of Lamech's wives had 2 children. The early Jewish Midrash Genesis Rabbah, chapter 23, verse 3, identifies this Naamah, the daughter of Lamech and sister of Tubal-Cain, as the wife of Noah, while some Jewish traditions associate her with singing. The Naamah mentioned in the Bible is a Cainite, a descendant in the lineage of Cain. However, a Sethite Naamah is named as the wife of Noah and a daughter of Enoch, Noah's great-grandfather, in a medieval midrash. The 17th century theologian John Gill mentioned a theory that identified Naamah instead with the name of the wife of Ham, son of Noah, who he believed may have become confused with Noah's wife. Names were very important to ancient people in the 2nd century BC. Jewish writers filled in the gaps in the Genesis story with writings that dealt with the same traditions. The earliest known name given to Noah's wife is Imzara, mother of the princess found in the non-canonical Book of Jubilees, chapter 4, verse 33, written around 160 BC. We are also told that he is Noah's first cousin, the daughter of her father's brother Raxel. The Book of Jubilees also mentions many other unnamed matriarchs of Genesis, including her daughters Sedeketobab, wife of Shem, Naltamuk, wife of Ham, and Adatanisas, wife of Japheth, whose men named cities after them. The name Imzara of Noah's wife is attested in other Second Temple literature found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, including a text known as the Genesis Apocrypha. This particular text even turns out to be an interesting story about another important woman in Noah's life who goes unnamed in Genesis, his mother Betinosh, and some drama that occurs shortly after her birth. The name Imzara of Noah's wife may not have been widely recognized, however, because she has a completely different identity in later rabbinic literature. Later writings such as the medieval Book of Jasher, which seems inconvenient since Noah's wife is a descendant of Cain, state that she is Naamah, daughter of Enoch. Whether she was Imzara, Naamah, or just a woman whose true name has long since been lost, Noah's wife lived a painful story of faith and hardship. This discovery raises curiosity to know more about Noah's life, family, experiences, and adventure. Let's visit Noah from the biblical perspective, the man that survived God's wrath. As the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah is the protagonist of the Old Testament flood story found in the book of Genesis. He is also the founder of vineyard cultivation. Noah, who represents the ideal of the righteous man, made a party to a covenant with Yahweh, the God of Israel, in which nature's continued protection against disaster is guaranteed. In the story of the flood, in Genesis chapter 6, verse 11 to chapter 9, verse 19, he is represented as the patriarch who, because of his blameless lifestyle, was chosen by God to preserve the human race after his wicked contemporaries had perished in the flood. A righteous man, Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord, according to Genesis chapter 6, verse 8. Thus, when God beheld the corruption of the earth and determined to destroy it, he gave Noah divine warning of the impending disaster and made a covenant with him, promising to save him and his family. Noah was instructed to build an ark, and by God's instructions, he took into the ark male and female specimens of all the world's species of animals, so that the animals could reproduce and replenish the earth. Consequently, according to this narrative, the entire surviving human race descended from Noah's 3 sons. Such a genealogy sets a universal frame within which the subsequent role of Abraham as the father of Israel's faith could assume its proper dimensions. The story of Noah is found in Genesis chapter 9, verse 20 to 27. After the flood, Noah began to cultivate the ground, and he planted a vineyard. One day he drank some wine he had made, and he became drunk and lay naked inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw that his father was naked and went outside and told his brothers. Then Shem and Japheth took a robe, held it over their shoulders, and backed into the tent to cover their father. As they did this, they looked the other way so they would not see him naked. When Noah woke up from his stupor, he learned what Ham, his youngest son, had done. Then he cursed Canaan, the son of Ham. May Canaan be cursed. May he be the lowest of servants to his relatives. Then Noah said, May the Lord, the God of Shem, be blessed, and may Canaan be his servant. May God expand the territory of Japheth. May Japheth share the prosperity of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant. A while later, Noah's sons are married and their wives follow them in the ark. But in this reckoning, they seem to be unmarried, and the shameless drinking of Noah does not fit well with the character of the pious hero of the flood. 3 different themes can be traced in Genesis chapter 9, verse 20 to 27. First, the passage has Noah as the beginning of agriculture, and especially of propagation. Secondly, it tries, in the person of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, to present the 3 sons of Noah, the ancestors of the 3 races of people, and to explain to some extent their historical relationships. And third, it provides a veiled justification for the subsequent coercion of the Israelites by the Canaanites in the reproach of Canaan. Noah's drunkenness and the disrespect it arouses in his son Ham lead to Noah placing a curse on Ham's son Canaan. This event can symbolize the ethnic and social division of Palestine. The Hebrews of the line of Shem are separated from the pre-Israelite population of Canaan, represented as free-spirited, who lived in submission to the Hebrews. The symbolic figure of Noah was already known in ancient Israel before the first 5 books of the Bible, called Pentateuch, were compiled. In Ezekiel chapter 14, verse 14 to 20, even if Noah, Daniel, and Job were there, their righteousness would save no one but themselves, says the sovereign Lord. As surely as I live, says the sovereign Lord, even if Noah, Daniel, and Job were there, they wouldn't be able to save their sons or daughters. They alone would be saved by their righteousness. This passage speaks of him as the prototype of the righteous, who alone among the Israelites would be spared God's vengeance. In the New Testament, according to Luke chapter 3, verse 36, Shelah was the son of Canaan. Canaan was the son of Arphaxad. Arphaxad was the son of Shem. Shem was the son of Noah. Noah was the son of Lamech. Noah is mentioned in the genealogy of the gospel, which limits the descent of Jesus from Adam. Jesus also uses the story of the flood that befell the earthly generation in the days of Noah as an example of baptism, and Noah is portrayed as a preacher of repentance to the people of his time, who in himself is a dominant theme in Jewish apocryphal and rabbinic writings. After the flood, Noah offered burnt offerings to God. God accepted the sacrifice and made a covenant with Noah, and through him with all humanity, that he would not waste the earth or destroy man with another flood. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth," as recorded in Genesis chapter 8, verse 17. Noah received 2 prohibitions. While eating animal food was permitted, abstaining from blood was strictly forbidden, and the shedding of human blood became a crime punishable by death at the hand of a man. Noah, the last biblical patriarch, died 350 years after the flood at the age of 950. The maximum human lifespan, described in the Bible, gradually decreases from almost 1,000 years to the 120 years of Moses. In addition to the main story of Genesis, the Hebrew Bible, the Christian Old Testament also refers to Noah, Isaiah, and Ezekiel in the First Chronicles. Deuterocanonical book references include Tobit, Wisdom, Sirach, 2 Esdras, and 4 Maccabees. New Testament references include Matthew and Luke and some Hebrews, 1 Peter, and 2 Peter. Noah was strongly influenced by later Abrahamic religions, including Islam in Quran Surah 71, 7, 11, 54, and 21, and the Baha'i faith in Kitab-i-Iqan and Jewels of Divine Secrets. Imagine being informed of a flood that will last for 3 months. If you are given the privilege to maximize the opportunity, what will you do? Let's see what the genius man did. The legendary ark and flood tale. In the biblical flood story in Genesis chapter 6 verse 11 to chapter 9 verse 19, Noah is the hero of the flood story and is referenced in various other books of the Bible. The story of the flood occurs in the first book of the Bible, Genesis. 10 generations after the creation of Adam, God saw that the earth was corrupt and filled with violence, and he decided to destroy what he had created. However, God found one righteous man, Noah, and to him he confided his intention: "I am about to bring on the flood to eliminate everywhere all flesh in which there is the breath of life." According to Genesis chapter 6 verse 12 to 16, God observed all this corruption in the world, for everyone on earth was corrupt. So God said to Noah, "I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them all out along with the earth. Build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar, inside and out. Then construct decks and stalls throughout its interior. Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Leave an 18-inch opening below the roof all the way around the boat. Put the door on the side and build 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. Look, I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on earth will die, but I will confirm my covenant with you. So enter the boat, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring a pair of every kind of animal, a male and a female, into the boat with you to keep them alive during the flood. Pairs of every kind of bird, every kind of animal, and every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. And be sure to take on board enough food for your family and all the animals." So Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded him. It was clear God instructed him to build an ark, and Noah entered the ark in his 600th year. On the 17th day of the 2nd month of that year, the fountains of the great deep burst apart, and the floodgates of heaven broke open, and rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights, until the highest mountains were covered to a depth of 15 cubits, and all life perished except Noah and those with him in the ark. After 150 days, God remembered Noah, and the waters subsided until the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat. And on the 27th day of the 2nd month of Noah's 601st year, the earth was dry. Then Noah built an altar and made a sacrifice. And God made a covenant with Noah that man would be allowed to eat every living thing but not its blood, and that God would never again destroy all life by a flood. The story shows that God intended to return the earth to its pre-creation state of watery chaos by flooding the earth due to the wrongdoings of mankind, and then to do it again using the microcosm of Noah's Ark. Thus, the flood was not an ordinary overflow, but a turning point in creation. The tale deals with the wickedness of mankind, which caused God to destroy the world with a flood, the preparation of the ark for certain animals, Noah and his family, and God's guarantees of continued life, the promise that he would never send another flood. According to the narration, all surviving mankind descended from the three sons of Noah and their wives. The religious meaning of the flood is expressed after Noah's heroic survival after landing safely on Mount Ararat. He then built an altar where he offered burnt offerings to God, who then made a covenant never to curse the earth again for the sake of humanity. Then God placed a rainbow in the sky as a visible guarantee of the promise in this covenant. God also renewed his commandments at creation, but with two changes. Mankind could now slay animals and eat meat, and humans were punished for murder. This flood story is closely related to Babylonian apocalyptic flood traditions, in which Utnapishtim plays a role corresponding to the story of Noah. These mythologies are the sources of aspects of the biblical flood story, such as the building and provisioning of the ark, its floating and sinking, and the role of the human protagonist. Plate 11 of the Epic of Gilgamesh depicts Utnapishtim, who, like Noah, survived cosmic destruction by following divine instructions to build an ark. Despite specific similarities between Mesopotamian and biblical flood myths, the biblical story has a uniquely Hebrew perspective. In the Babylonian story, the flood was the result of a disagreement between the gods, while in Genesis, it was because of the moral corruption of human history. The primitive idea of the Mesopotamian versions is transformed in the biblical story into an affirmation of the omnipotence and benevolence of the one just God. Again, after their survival, Utnapishtim and his wife are accepted into the circle of the immortal gods, but Noah and his family are asked to make history again. Mount Ararat is traditionally associated with the mountain where Noah's Ark stopped during the flood. The biblical name Ararat is the Hebrew equivalent of Urartu or Urartu, the Assyrian-Babylonian name for the kingdom that flourished between Aras and the Upper Tigris in the 8th and 7th century BC. Ararat is sacred to the Armenians, who believe they are the first human race to appear in the world after the flood. A Persian legend calls Ararat the cradle of mankind. There was once a village on the slopes of Ararat high above the plain of Aras where, according to local tradition, Noah built an altar and planted the first vineyard. The Armenians built a monastery on the site of the village in memory of St. James, who is said to have tried several times to reach the top of Mount Ararat in search of the Ark but failed. In 1840, a volcanic eruption and a landslide destroyed the town and the monastery of St. James, Jakob, and the nearby San Jakob Chapel, and also claimed the lives of hundreds of villagers. Local tradition said that the ark still lay above, but God declared that no one should see it. In September 1829, the German Johann Jakob von Parow made the first successful ascent. Since then, Ararat has been crossed by several explorers, some of whom claim to have seen the remains of the ship. Archaeologists claim to have discovered a giant statue in the mountains of Turkey that matches the shape and size of the iconic biblical boat. But geologists say the mountain formation is just rock. Noah's Ark is the ship used by God to save Noah, his family, and all the animals of the world from a global flood in the Genesis flood story. The story repeats itself in different forms in dozens of ancient cultures that describe massive floods. But mostly geologists and historians consider the Genesis flood myth incompatible with modern understanding of the fossil record of the age of the planet. Historical records indicate that the ship chase dates back to the time of Eusebius of Caesarea, who ruled between 275 to 239 AD, but no physical evidence of the ship has ever been found. Now, archaeologists with the Noah's Ark Scans project said that using advanced 3D scans, they have located a giant shape in the Turkish mountains, the proportions of which match the biblical descriptions of Noah's Ark. The discovery was made in the Durupinar site on Mount Tenderek in eastern Turkey, the area believed to be the location of Mount Ararat, the mythical resting place of Noah's Ark, as described in the Book of Genesis. Researcher Andrew Jones and lead scientist Dr. Fethi Ahmet Yüksel of the Department of Geophysical Engineering, Applied Geophysics Department of Istanbul University, told British media that 3D scans of the area discovered a formation of the exact length of the Ark, detailed in the Bible as being around 150 meters, or 300 cubits in biblical terms. Jones stated that such a parallel line and right angles below the surface is something you would not expect to see in a natural geologic formation. But these results are what you would expect to see if this is a man-made boat matching the biblical requirements of Noah's Ark. Still, geologists say that the formation, first unearthed around 50 years ago, is just a simple rock formation, since the giant skeleton fingernail was found near Noah's remains. Thus, it's safe to ask what was found at Noah's tomb and where it's located. The 6,500 years old skeleton of Noah. In Philadelphia, scientists at the Penn Museum are essentially cleaning out their closets of skeletons. A 6,500-year-old human skeleton that had been stored in a box in the basement for 85 years was recently rediscovered by museum staff. The wooden box, hidden in a storeroom, lacked a catalog card and any identifying numbers. However, new details regarding the history of the enigmatic box and the skeleton inside, dubbed Noah, have emerged as a result of an attempt to digitize some of the museum's old records. According to the records, the human remains inside the box were first discovered by Sir Leonard Woolley and his group of archaeologists from the British and Penn Museums at the location of Ur in modern-day Iraq between 1929 and 1930. The covered skeleton, the 6,500-year-old human remains found at the Ur site in Iraq, is covered with a thin layer of light plaster mixture to preserve it during transportation. Already, the silt beneath the skeleton is being removed to allow space for the carrying board. Within a floodplain approximately 50 feet and 15 meters beneath the surface of the Ur site, the team discovered 48 tombs that belonged to the Ubaid era, which spanned from 5,500 to 4,000 BC. Even in 1929, bones from this era were exceedingly scarce, so Woolley chose to remove just one skeleton from the location. He wrapped the bones in wax, packed them, and sent them to Philadelphia and then London. Half of the artifacts from the 1929 and 1930 dig were kept in Iraq, and the remaining items were divided between London and Philadelphia, according to a series of lists. According to one of the lists, 2 skeletons and a tray of mud from the excavation were to be given to the Penn Museum. However, the list confused William Hafford, the project manager in charge of digitizing the museum's records. There was no sign of one of the 2 skeletons on the list. Examining the museum's database further showed that as of 1990, the unidentified skeleton was listed as not accounted for. Hafford started looking through the copious documents Woolley had left behind in an attempt to solve this mystery. Following his discovery of more data, which included pictures of the missing skeleton, Hafford got in touch with Janet Monge, the physical anthropology curator at the Penn Museum. However, Monge was unfamiliar with the skeleton, just like Hafford was. That's when Monge remembered the mysterious box in the basement. Later that day, Monge claimed to have opened the box and seen that the human remains inside were unmistakably the same ones that Woolley had been listed as packing and shipping. She stated that the skeleton most likely belonged to a man who was at least 50 years old and measured between 5 feet 8 inches, 73 centimeters, and 5 feet 10 inches, 178 centimeters tall. The rediscovered skeleton has been given the name Noah by Penn Museum researchers because it is thought that he lived following what archaeological evidence points to as a significant flood at the original location of Ur. About an alleged discovery of Noah's Ark, the Durupinar Formation has been put forth as a potential Ark resting place for many years and has received extensive attention from those hoping to find Noah's Ark. Despite the hype, archaeologists have consistently reaffirmed over the years that the formation is natural, not the result of a petrified shipwreck, and that there is no geologic record of a global flood like the one described in religious texts. Some believe that a more local flood may have been possible, but that is also debated. A team of researchers said it isn't currently possible to say that Noah's Ark itself was at the Durupinar site. According to Turkish news publication Hürriyet, Faruk Kaya, one of the researchers on the project, said, "With the dating, it is not possible to say that the ship is here. We need to work for a long time to reveal this." In the next period, we agreed to carry out a joint study under the leadership of ITU, Andrew University, and AICU. 3 universities will continue their work in this field in the future. For now, the scientists point to the evidence in the soil of clayey materials, marine materials, and seafood, according to Hürriyet, within the geological formation as evidence. The team of researchers placed a renewed focus on the region in 2021 by exploring varying geological areas, including the Durupinar Formation, which is made of limonite that bears resemblance to a ship like Noah's Ark. Further exploration led the team to take the rock and soil samples from the country's highest peaks for laboratory analysis. What do you think about the story of Noah and the great ark he built? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting stories.